Number 15. The taste of triumph. Literally. Imagine this. You're huddled around a flickering fire, the wind howls outside, and your clan has just slain a woolly mammoth. The massive beast could have stomped you all into oblivion, but here you are, victorious. Your leader, a grizzled cave person with a club and a sense of savage pride, rips into a raw liver. Not cooked, raw. And then, without hesitation, they offer you a piece. Sound disgusting? Well, it wasn't just dinner for early humans. It was a power move, a quick energy boost, and potentially even a form of medicine. Organ meats like raw liver, brains, and bone marrow were packed with essential nutrients that gave a survival edge. Cooking? That was a luxury. The raw stuff was the fast food of the Paleolithic, packing dense calories and vitamins for immediate survival. So while your modern palate recoils at the idea of a raw liver smoothie, your great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy probably thought it was the ultimate power snack. Basically, our ancestors weren't just tough, they were fuel efficient, and liver was their Red Bull. Number 14. Sleeping with one eye open. Literally. You're snuggled up in your warm bed with your weighted blanket and soft pillow, but now imagine you're an early human, drifting off to sleep on the cold, hard floor of a cave, with one eye open. Why? Because the constant threat of a saber-toothed tiger or other predators made uninterrupted sleep a luxury. Our ancestors didn't sleep in long blocks like we do now. They practiced polyphasic sleep, meaning they took shorter naps, constantly waking to check for dangers. Their brains weren't just resting. They were running a 24/7 threat assessment. Those who slept too deeply didn't wake up. It's like your internal alarm clock was always set to existential dread. So, next time you wake up at 3 a.m. and feel like you're not really getting quality sleep, blame your ancient brain, which was hardwired to keep an eye out for anything that could eat you. Number 13. The human GPS, pre-Google Maps edition. Picture this. You're dropped in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by endless wilderness. No compass, no phone, no map, just you and the vast, untamed world. Terrifying, right? But for our ancestors, this was just another day at the office. Navigation wasn't a problem for them. They had an incredible spatial memory and could navigate vast landscapes without modern technology. It wasn't just about landmarks. They understood subtle terrain shifts, wind directions, star patterns, and even the smell of water from miles away. Getting lost wasn't just inconvenient, it was deadly. Their brains were fine-tuned biological GPS systems, constantly updating their mental maps. So while you're fumbling with your phone, trying to get directions to the nearest coffee shop, just remember, your ancient brain could navigate entire continents without a map. Basically, Google Maps has nothing on your ancestors' mental cartography. Number 12. The social thermostat. Literally. Walk into a cold room and what do? Rub your arms, shiver, maybe crank up the heat. Now imagine early humans in a freezing cave, no central heating or cozy fleece blankets. How did they stay warm? Social thermoregulation, huddling together to share body heat. In freezing climates, staying warm wasn't just about comfort, it was a matter of survival. Your brain, sensing the cold, triggers an innate urge to get close to others. It's why you feel the need to cuddle or hug when it's chilly. But this wasn't just a psychological need, it was primal. Human contact meant survival, and every hug was like a mini survival strategy. So, when you feel the urge to huddle or share warmth with loved ones, know that it's not just about sentiment, it's about staving off death by hypothermia. Basically, spooning wasn't just romantic, it was life-saving. Number 11. The grossest medicine cabinet. You wake up with a nasty wound, maybe from a badger or a misstep while hunting. What do? Reach for a Band-Aid? Nope. Early humans didn't have Neosporin or antiseptic wipes. They had a much more primitive approach. They probably reached for cow dung, spider webs, or other gross things from the natural world. Yes, really. Early humans didn't have a pharmacy, so they used whatever was available to treat infections or stop bleeding. Some of these treatments worked, like the penicillin-producing mold used for infections, but others were downright nasty. But when the alternative was death by infection, desperate times called for desperate measures. Your brain, in its relentless survival mode, didn't care if it was gross. It just cared if it worked. Next time you complain about the taste of cough syrup, remember, your ancestor probably used fresh dung to patch up wounds. Basically, their medicine cabinet was a literal hot mess. Number 10. The prehistoric dentist's chair. Imagine a toothache so unbearable, there's no dentist to visit and no painkillers to dull the agony. What do? If you were an early human, you might grab a sharp stone or bone tool and perform your own tooth extraction. Sounds horrifying, right? Well, it was. Evidence suggests that early humans sometimes performed their own crude dental surgeries using tools to remove or even drill into infected teeth. This wasn't a routine visit to the dentist. It was a desperate survival tactic. Your brain, usually excellent at avoiding pain, would override that instinct because the long-term pain of an infected tooth was far worse than the immediate agony of a DIY extraction. Your ancestors might not have had modern dentistry, but they sure knew how to grit their teeth and handle excruciating pain. So, the next time you're at the dentist's office, be thankful you're not living in the prehistoric dental horror show. Conclusion: from eating raw organs to making their own dental tools, early humans had to rely on primal instincts and creative problem-solving for survival. These brutal realities might make us appreciate modern conveniences, but they also remind us how our brains and bodies evolved to adapt, improvise, and survive. Next time you find yourself reaching for that extra layer or giving someone a hug for warmth, remember, it's not just emotional. Your brain is working to keep you alive, just like it did for your ancient ancestors. Number 9. The original body modifications. You might think piercings and tattoos are just modern trends to show off individuality, but for our ancestors, body modification had much more practical and sometimes horrifying purposes. Think scarification for tribal identity, stretching earlobes to carry heavy ornaments, or cranial deformation to signal status. These weren't just about looking cool, they were rites of passage, bravery markers, or signals of group affiliation that were vital for survival. In a tribal society, being an outcast could literally mean death. The pain endured during these processes wasn't just pain, it was a demonstration of resilience and proof of worth to the group. Your brain, wired for social connection, knew that the short-term agony was a small price to pay for safety. While you might get a tattoo to look cool, your ancient relative was getting theirs to not get eaten by a rival clan. Basically, your fashion choices are just a watered-down echo of life-or-death tribal signaling. Number 8. Eating your enemies, sometimes. You're at a barbecue, eating a nice burger. Now imagine your ancestors after a nasty battle with a rival group. Instead of just defeating their enemies, they decide to consume parts of them. Yes, cannibalism. It's been a grim part of human history. For some ancient cultures, it wasn't about hunger. It was about absorbing the enemy's strength, performing rituals of dominance, or even a desperate survival tactic during famine. Your brain, capable of both connection and cruelty, could rationalize this act for perceived survival benefits, whether physical, spiritual, or psychological. Eating the enemy wasn't about hunger. It was about power, resources, and prevention of future threats. Basically, your ancestors' idea of a power lunch was much more direct. Number 7. The ostracism death sentence. You think a bad day on social media is annoying? Now, imagine being cast out of your entire tribe for one mistake and left to face the wilderness alone. For early humans, ostracism wasn't just awkward, it was a death sentence. Being part of a group wasn't just a luxury, it was necessary for survival. You needed others for protection, food, and raising children. Exclusion was the ultimate threat, and that primal fear of rejection is deeply ingrained in your brain. The fear of being left alone meant almost certainly dying. This explains why even modern public shaming feels so devastating. It's an echo of ancient life-threatening banishment. So next time you're worried about what someone thinks of your post, just remember your genes are screaming because getting ghosted is as dangerous as being mauled by a bear. Number 6. The portable food sack, literally you. Imagine going on a journey with no food, no supermarkets, no snacks. What do you pack? Maybe dried fruit, jerky, and a water bottle. Now imagine your ancestor facing a similar trek. If they ran out of food, they might consume parts of themselves. Yes, autocannibalism was practiced in extreme survival scenarios when starvation loomed. Your brain, desperate to survive, would override every instinct against self-harm, because the alternative was worse: death. This horrific decision highlights the extreme resilience of humans pushed to the absolute brink. Basically, your survival toolkit used to include a built-in snack. You. Number 5. The weaponized poop. Imagine playing a video game and throwing a grenade. Effective, right? Now picture your ancestor facing a rival tribe and their weapon of choice is dried animal dung. It sounds bizarre, but in early warfare and hunting, animal feces was used as a biological weapon. Thrown into an enemy camp, it could spread disease, contaminate water sources, or just create a morale-crushing mess. For hunting, poisoned arrows were often coated with putrefied animal matter to cause infection. Your brain, always looking for an advantage, wasn't picky. Anything would do for survival, even if it was gross. Basically, your tactical instincts once included finding the freshest pile of dung. Number 4. The head-shrinking status symbol. Want to show off your status? You might buy a fancy watch or a luxury car. Now imagine in some ancient cultures, the ultimate status symbol was a shrunken head. Not just any head, but the head of a defeated enemy. This wasn't just morbid. It was a complex ritual, a demonstration of power, and a belief in the spiritual essence of the individual. The process of shrinking heads involved boiling the skull, filling the skin with sand, and shrinking it down. This act instilled fear in enemies and pride in the tribe. Your brain, obsessed with hierarchy and dominance, understood that these gruesome trophies were crucial social tools. Basically, your ancestors' idea of a flex was considerably more shrunken. Number 3. The baby whisperer with a twist. You hear a baby crying. What do? Comfort it, feed it, change it. But what if, for your ancestors, those cries meant death? In extreme situations, if resources were critically low, an infant's cries could attract predators or expose the entire group to danger. In some historical accounts, infanticide was a desperate survival strategy. The brutal calculus of the many versus the one could result in a decision to sacrifice a child for the greater good of the group. Your brain, wired for the survival of the group and species, could prioritize the collective over the individual infant. This grim reality demonstrates the horrifying choices primitive survival could demand. Basically, your ancestors understood the darkest meaning of silent night. Number 2. The bone-deep hunger. You're feeling peckish. Maybe you grab a snack from the fridge. Now imagine being bone-achingly starving. For early humans, food wasn't guaranteed. It was a constant, desperate quest. When large game animals were killed, every part was utilized, especially bone marrow, a high-calorie superfood. Your brain, in a state of extreme hunger, would drive you to smash bones to extract every last bit of energy. This survival tactic shaped early human behavior and ingenuity. Basically, your ancestors' favorite snack required a hammer and chisel. Number 1. The art of the gruesome funeral. You attend a funeral today. It's somber, respectful. But for your ancestors, funerals were often visceral and gruesome by modern standards. Practices like excarnation, where the body is exposed to scavengers, or endocannibalism, where relatives consumed parts of the deceased as a ritual, were about honoring the dead. Your brain, trying to make sense of death, developed complex rituals to cope with grief and integrate it into life. While shocking to us, these practices were meaningful for early humans in understanding life and death. Basically, your ancestors' grieving process often involved some highly unconventional post-mortem activities.